Welcome to Mercy's Designs. My name is Mercy and I demonstrate Stampin' Up! Products. Today I would like to show this really cute card using the brand new set, Jars of Flowers. So I'll bring that in and show you. And I'm also, for the sentiment, bringing in a good man. So to get started, we're going to bring in the piercing mat, and in case there was any confusion, they decided to actually continue this piercing mat. So it is still available, but not in the annual catalog. All right, so the first thing I want to do is go ahead and stamp this image, the jar. And I don't know how familiar most of you are, but the old-fashioned type of jar, canning jar, can actually be more of a bluish tint, and this looks really awesome as that. So just stamp it. Then I'm going to bring in mint macaron for the stems. And when you're lining up the stems, be sure to put this at the top. I know that seems a little counterintuitive, but you want to do that, and you want to line them up just as the jar ends, kind of like that. Okay. And then what I like to do is I like to bring in my blends marker and go ahead and fill this in. I think this is the pool party. I think it makes it less obvious that there are no stems that continue. You could actually put stems, but it kind of looks a little odd to me. So I prefer it this way. All right, so here's my Memento ink, and I'm going to go ahead and stamp this large flower image. Sorry, I'm a little off camera here, but basically I'm just inking it up really well. And I do not keep my Memento ink pads very well inked. And the reason is I don't like splotches, and they tend to do that if it's really well inked. So I'm going to bring this back in and just stamp it. So next, you would want to fussy cut this out. Okay, so we have a little bit more stamping to do for the sentiment. I'm going to find that. Oh, okay, right here it is. For a second, I was thinking I'm missing it. Now, this label is from the Tasteful label dies, and it's the larger one. So I wanted to point that out. And then this image, this die is the Stitch Shapes framelits. So I will list these items in the description below, but in case you wondered, that's what it is. Now I'm bringing in shaded spruce. It is not the Jade, the new just Jade, but it somewhat looks like a darker shade to me. Obviously I would like to have just Jade, but my order hasn't come yet. So there it is, it's your day. Now I like this because it's really a neutral sentiment to say. Okay, so the next part is I'm going to focus on talking about the card base, etc. So we'll set this aside. So the card base is the standard, and I'm going to use the Misty Moonlight, and I like to do side folding, meaning like a hot dog cut. So it's 11 inches, and then it's scored at 5.5, and this is 4 1/4. So that is our base. And then I have the Designer Series paper in colors. So what I like to do is take a 4x4 piece of Designer Series paper and cut it at 1 1/4. So this is the 1 1/4 portion, and pull it apart. So what I would do next, I'm going to back this up a little. It's hard to stay in view. And so what you do next is go ahead and adhere it to a mat. Now, this mat is just a 1/16 inch less than a 4 1/8 and 5 3/4. Okay, so it's just a hair under that. Okay, just want to make sure I have the right one. Yeah, I think this is the right one. Let's hope it is. Yeah, it should be. I'm doubting myself. Worst case, I'll have to restart the video, right? So this is the letters, but obviously that doesn't matter. I came up with this kind of layout because at one point I decided I wanted a landscape card, but I only had a piece of paper that was cut more, so it was vertical. And I discovered if you pull them apart, cut it apart, it actually adds a lot of interest. So I would encourage you to try this technique. It just looks really cool, I think. Now this is 1 1/4, and then what I will do next is what I like to do is get some coordinating color, and this is Sahara Sand, which isn't the coordinating color exactly, but what I like about it is it's a neutral, and neutral goes with pretty much everything. So I ran this through the Tasteful Textile 3D embossing folder, and this is a new one. And what I have here is 1 1/8 by 4 inches. So I do suggest going ahead and adding these layers first, and if there's a little bit of issue, this can kind of make up the difference. It's a little less obvious. Okay, so here we go. Yeah, there. It's not much of a border there, but it's okay. It still looks pretty cool, I think. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and attach this to my base, the Misty Moonlight. I hope I said that right. I'm still learning these new names. But here we go. So we just add it here, and we can continue building the card. All right, so I am going to finish coloring this. I am using Rococo Rose, the light Seaside spray and the dark, as well as for the leaves I'm using the dark mint macaron and shaded spruce, the light and dark. So I will speed the next part up, and then I'll come back and finish assembling. So here is the finished coloring. The only thing left would be to add the wink of Stella if you so desire. All right, so I'm going to bring back in our card base, and we will start. I need to add a few dimensionals to this, and bring in, oh yeah, I hope I allowed enough space down here to cut it out, but what you will need to do is, it comes with a coordinating punch. I was a little shy there. Okay, it's a tight squeeze, but it'll work. Okay, so that's pretty straightforward. Oops. And then you have, of course, your right here. Okay, so I want to add a little bit of twine on this. So one of the tricks you can do is, do it the right direction though, add a little snail, and this will make it a lot easier to wrap. So what I'm going to do with this one is, this time I'm not going to do like a knot. I'm just going to go ahead and wrap kind of somewhat randomly. As you can see, I'm doing it this direction, and then I will look at it here, and I kind of like, actually that would probably be enough for what I want. So I'm just gonna go ahead and trim this off. And now we have a nice quick little detail there. So if you make it too thick, you can take a couple layers and put it behind it and cut out here, which I wouldn't really have to. I made this one a little thinner than my original, but I will just, since I have this ready, go ahead and do that. Actually, I need a little bit more. Okay, so I used the punch to punch this out, obviously, and it will line straight up with here. So this is instead of using dimensionals, if you want a little bit less thick, which I do because I want to pop up the flowers. And then you just put this part here, up here. So it gives that little extra, this won't ride up. The only thing I would suggest is add a little glue to make sure, whoops, see, like that. The snail is not as strong. So sometimes you might want to reinforce that. Okay, so that should work. All right, so just center this more or less here. I'm doing it slightly closer to that center piece, but oh, I just saw that this actually, I didn't do a very good job lining this up, so I'm just going to trim it just a tin. Okay. It's all in the details, right? You want it pretty much perfect. Is that asking too much? Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just add a few of the dimensionals on the back here. For a second there, I drew a blank. Anyhow, I hope you've enjoyed this, seeing how I made this card. I think it's really cute. I love this set. It's probably my favorite of the ones that were introduced with punches, the jars of flour and jar of flowers. Okay, not jars. I knew I had that a little off. I had to look at the, okay, look at the stamp case again. All right, so the last detail is to go ahead, bring this back in, and then we can stamp inside if we so desire. So when I stamped inside, I will just show you an example and not do it. I use the Tasteful Touches, I'm sorry. I want to say textures. I think there was a stamp set that was like that at one point. Okay, so just center it like so, and you should be good. So as promised, I'll show you what I did with this card. I just did the stuff, and I used the mint macaron and shaded spruce for the feather. So super simple. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video tutorial. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, please consider doing so. If you have any stamping needs, please email me at mewants3@gmail.com, and I'd be happy to help you place an order with the host code. So before I close, I wanted to quickly show, for this one, I Grew Up Loved. This would make a good Father's Day card, which is what I plan to use it for. And I used this label die from the Tasteful Touches labels for cutting out this one, and then I used a stitched one for matting it. So just a little idea. And don't forget to use Wink of Stella. It always adds a nice little touch for your flowers and whatever you choose. You could even do in your jar if you wanted, whatever you want. But it just adds a nice little sparkle. Thank you so much for watching, and happy stamping.